Brainy Bites, a daily dose for self-improvement.
Hey there, curious minds. Have you ever caught yourself wondering why we sometimes make decisions that seem, well, a little puzzling? Or why our thoughts take unexpected turns? Well, you're in for a treat. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of cognitive biases. Buckle up, because we're about to unlock the secrets behind 10 mental shortcuts that shape the way we think and decide. Get ready to master your mind. Welcome back, everyone, to Brainy Bites. I'm thrilled to have you here today because we're delving into a topic that's not only incredibly intriguing but also holds the keys to understanding our own thought processes. In this video, we're going to explore 10 cognitive biases, those sneaky little mental habits that influence our decision-making without us even realizing it. Think of it as a crash course in understanding the inner workings of your mind. So, grab a cozy seat and let's embark on this eye-opening journey together. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Number 1. Cognitive dissonance, unraveling the mind's tug-of-war. Alright, let's kick things off with a fascinating concept called cognitive dissonance. Imagine it as a mental tug-of-war between conflicting beliefs or attitudes. It's that uneasy feeling we get when we hold two contradictory thoughts at the same time. Our brains naturally seek harmony, so when there's a clash, it sets off a sort of internal alarm. To make this a bit clearer, let's dive into Aesop's fable about the fox and the grapes. Our clever fox desperately craved those juicy grapes hanging high above. But after multiple failed attempts to reach them, he did something interesting. He changed his mind. Instead of admitting defeat, he decided the grapes were probably sour anyway, and he turned away. That right there is a prime example of cognitive dissonance in action. The fox created a new belief that grapes are sour to soothe the discomfort of not being able to attain what he originally desired. Now, you might be wondering, how does this apply to everyday life? Well, let's say you're in a job interview, and someone else nabs the position. Rather than acknowledging that the other person was a better fit, you might find yourself thinking, "Hey, I didn't really want that job anyway." That's cognitive dissonance at play. We tend to alter our perceptions to align with our self-image or prior beliefs, sometimes without even realizing it. It's a bit like our brains performing mental gymnastics to keep things feeling comfortable and consistent. Can you recall any instances in your own life where you might have experienced this phenomenon? It happens to the best of us. Number 2. Spotlight effect, shining a light on perception. Now, let's shift our focus to something we've all experienced at one point or another, the spotlight effect. Picture yourself walking into a room just a tad late, and suddenly, it feels like all eyes are on you. It's like there's a spotlight illuminating your every move, and it can be a bit overwhelming. The spotlight effect is that tendency we have to believe that others are paying way more attention to us than they actually are. Think about it, have you ever had that moment at the gym when you're convinced everyone's eyes are on you? Or perhaps you've spilled a bit of sauce on your shirt at a party and felt like you committed a major fashion faux pas? Well, rest assured, you're not alone. It turns out, these feelings are more common than we think. The truth is, people are often much more focused on their own activities and thoughts than they are on what we're doing. So, next time you feel like you're in the spotlight, take a deep breath. And remember, you're probably not the main event in everyone else's minds. But wait, there's more. Let's consider that first day on the job scenario. It's totally normal to feel like all eyes are on you, right? Well, not exactly. Sure, your arrival might draw a few glances, but chances are, your new colleagues are wrapped up in their own tasks and conversations. It's a classic case of the spotlight effect, and recognizing it can free us from unnecessary self-consciousness. So, the next time you're in a situation where you're convinced you're under the spotlight, just remember, it's likely not as bright as you think. Number 3. Anchoring effect, the power of first impressions. Now, let's delve into a little mind trick called the anchoring effect. Picture this, you're at a store, eyeing a gorgeous leather jacket. You check the price tag, and it's a hefty $500. Suddenly, that $200 one across the aisle doesn't seem so bad, does it? The anchoring effect is the phenomenon where our initial exposure to a piece of information, in this case, the price of the first jacket, influences our subsequent judgments and decisions. Let's break it down a bit further. Imagine you're shopping for a new phone. The salesperson might start by showing you the most expensive model first. By doing this, they're anchoring your perception of what's considered a high-end phone. Even when they introduce less expensive options later, your brain is still anchored to that initial high price, making the others seem like a steal in comparison. Sneaky, right? This isn't just a retail trick. The anchoring effect plays a major role in various scenarios, from salary negotiations to real estate deals. Ever wonder why a car salesman might give you an initial, eye-popping price? It's to set the anchor high, so that when they later reveal the discounted price, it seems like a fantastic deal. The same principle applies in other areas of life, too. Knowing about the anchoring effect can help you navigate these situations with a clearer perspective. So, the next time you're faced with a big decision, be mindful of those initial numbers. They might just be influencing you more than you think. Number 4. Halo effect, when first impressions shape our view. Alright, let's talk about something called the halo effect. Imagine meeting someone new and instantly thinking, wow, they seem so intelligent and friendly. That initial positive impression can actually influence how we perceive other aspects of that person. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our first impression of someone or something shapes our overall judgment of them. Let's say you meet two individuals, Alan and Ben. Alan is described as intelligent, industrious, and impulsive, while Ben is labeled as envious, stubborn, and critical. Now, here's the kicker, both lists contain the exact same traits. But, more often than not, we tend to view Alan in a more favorable light because the positive traits were presented first. This is the halo effect at work. Our brains have a tendency to give more weight to the first piece of information we receive. This phenomenon doesn't just stop at personal interactions. It extends to products, brands, and even places. Ever notice how your first impression of a restaurant or a product can color your overall opinion, even if subsequent experiences might be less stellar? It's all thanks to the powerful influence of the halo effect. So, as you go about your day, keep an eye out for those initial impressions. They're shaping more than you might think. Number 5. Gambler's fallacy, the illusion of balance. Now, let's dive into a little quirk our brains like to play on us, the gambler's fallacy. Ever had the feeling that if something happens more frequently in the short run, it's bound to even out in the long run? Well, that's the gambler's fallacy in action. It's the mistaken belief that after a series of similar events, the probability of a different outcome increases. Basically, it's thinking that luck has a sort of cosmic balance sheet. Picture this, you're at a casino, and the roulette wheel lands on red 5 times in a row. Suddenly, you're convinced black is due for a comeback. But here's the thing, each spin is independent of the last. The wheel doesn't remember its previous spins. Similarly, think about a coin toss. Just because it's landed on heads multiple times doesn't mean tails is suddenly due. It's important to remember that each event is its own isolated incident. So, why is this important? Well, relying on the gambler's fallacy can lead to some risky decision making. Let's say you're investing in the stock market. Just because a stock has been on a hot streak doesn't guarantee it'll continue. Or, in a more everyday scenario, imagine you're taking a multiple choice test. If you've answered a string of questions with the same letter, don't let the gambler's fallacy tempt you into second-guessing yourself. Each question stands alone. So, next time you find yourself tempted by this fallacy, remember, the universe doesn't keep score. Number 6. Contrast effect, playing tricks on perception. Now, let's explore a little mind game our brains like to play, the contrast effect. Ever noticed how something seems either more or less impressive based on what it's compared to? That's the contrast effect in action. It's the tendency we have to evaluate things in relation to others, rather than on their own merit. Imagine you're out shopping for a new pair of shoes. You try on a dazzling pair that costs a pretty penny. But then, you stumble upon a slightly more affordable option that seems like a downright steal compared to the first. Suddenly, that second pair feels like an absolute bargain. This shift in perception is all thanks to the contrast effect. Our brains are wired to make judgments based on relative differences rather than absolute values. Let's put it in another context. Picture a job interview. If you've interviewed a few candidates already, the next one you meet will likely be assessed in comparison to the previous interviewees. This can have a significant impact on your overall evaluation. The contrast effect shows up in all sorts of scenarios, from shopping for clothes to evaluating performance at work. So, the next time you find yourself making comparisons, be mindful of how it might be influencing your perceptions. It's a little quirk of human psychology that we can all learn to navigate. Number 7. Confirmation bias, our personal truth filter. Alright, let's talk about something that affects all of us, confirmation bias. Have you ever noticed how sometimes we tend to seek out information that confirms what we already believe? Well, that's confirmation bias in action. It's the natural tendency our brains have to favor information that aligns with our pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. Here's a classic example. Imagine you're trying to decide between two smartphones. You might find yourself gravitating towards the reviews and opinions that support the one you're already leaning towards. It's like your brain is giving a little nod of approval to information that fits into your existing narrative. This tendency can also be seen in the way we consume news. We're more likely to click on articles or watch segments that align with our existing viewpoints, reinforcing our beliefs. Now, let's think about social media. Algorithms are designed to show us content that aligns with what we've interacted with before. This creates a sort of echo chamber, where we're constantly surrounded by information that confirms our beliefs. It's like a personal truth filter. So, the next time you find yourself deep in a discussion or making a decision, take a moment to consider if you might be falling victim to confirmation bias. It's a natural human tendency, but being aware of it can help us make more informed choices. Number 8. Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, when the unseen becomes seen. Now, let's dive into something fascinating called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Ever had the experience of learning a new word or discovering something for the first time, only to suddenly see it everywhere? It's like the universe has conspired to bring that word or thing into your life, right? Well, that's the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon in action. Here's how it works. Let's say you come across a unique word, like zonda, which describes the realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own. Suddenly, you start seeing zonda in articles, on social media, and even in conversations with friends. It's like the word was hiding in plain sight all along, just waiting for you to notice it. This phenomenon is a testament to how our brains are wired to pick up on things that have recently entered our awareness. It's not just limited to words, though. Think about buying a new car. Suddenly, you start seeing that exact model everywhere on the road. It's not that there's been a sudden surge in popularity. It's just that your brain is now attuned to recognizing it. So, the next time you experience the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, take a moment to appreciate the incredible power of your brain to spot patterns in the world around you. It's like having a superpower right at your fingertips. Number 9. Zeigarnik effect, the unfinished symphony of the mind. Now, let's delve into something called the Zeigarnik effect. Have you ever noticed how unfinished tasks tend to stick around in your mind, nagging at you until they're completed? Well, that's the Zeigarnik effect in action. It's the tendency our brains have to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. Imagine you're working on a project, and then you step away to grab a cup of coffee. Suddenly, your mind keeps looping back to that project, reminding you that it's not finished. It's like a mental post-it note, reminding you to get back to it. So, how do you manage this? Well, one simple trick is to jot down a quick plan to complete the task. It's like giving your brain a roadmap to follow, which can provide a sense of closure, even if the task isn't finished just yet. Next time you find yourself with a mental checklist of incomplete tasks, don't stress. Simply grab a pen and paper, or open a note-taking app, and jot down your plan. You'll find that the Zeigarnik effect eases up, allowing you to focus on other things without that mental to-do list constantly vying for your attention. It's a little cognitive hack that can make a big difference in your productivity and peace of mind. Number 10. Paradox of choice, when options overwhelm. Now, let's talk about something many of us have experienced, the paradox of choice. Imagine standing in front of a supermarket shelf stacked with 20 different varieties of cereal. While having options can be a good thing, it turns out that too many choices can actually lead to decision paralysis and dissatisfaction. Consider this. In a study, shoppers were presented with an array of 24 different jams to sample and purchase. Surprisingly, even though more choices attracted more initial interest, the shoppers were far less likely to actually make a purchase. On the other hand, when presented with just 6 options, they were 10 times more likely to buy. It's like our brains can get overwhelmed when faced with too many options, making it harder to make a decision. This phenomenon isn't just confined to supermarkets. Think about something like online shopping. While it's great to have a vast array of choices, it can also lead to spending an inordinate amount of time comparing products, and in the end, feeling less satisfied with your purchase. So, the next time you find yourself faced with an abundance of choices, remember that sometimes, less can be more. Streamlining your options can lead to more confident and satisfying decisions. It's all about finding that sweet spot between variety and simplicity. Conclusion: unraveling the mind's quirks. And there you have it, 10 fascinating cognitive biases that influence the way we think and make decisions. From the gambler's fallacy to the Zeigarnik effect, Each bias shapes our perceptions in its own unique way. Remember, becoming aware of these biases is the first step towards more thoughtful and rational thinking. By recognizing these quirks of the mind, we gain a powerful tool to navigate the complexities of decision-making. It's like having a secret map to guide us through the maze of biases that lurk in our thoughts. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where a decision needs to be made, pause for a moment and consider which bias might be at play. But don't keep this newfound knowledge to yourself. Share this video with friends, family, and colleagues. Let's spread the awareness of cognitive biases together. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more content on understanding the inner workings of the mind. Together, we can embark on a journey towards more informed and empowered decision-making. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, remember to keep thinking critically.